Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to constantly defend your own peace? What if the reason you feel so drained is not because you are setting boundaries, but because you are carrying the impossible weight of making sure everyone is perfectly happy with them? If you have ever felt emotionally exhausted from trying to soften every simple no, or if you find yourself writing paragraphs of excuses just to take a single moment of rest for yourself, this is for you. Most people do not realize that the deepest emotional burnout does not come from what we do. It comes from the quiet, desperate performance of trying to manage how others feel about our choices. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. 1. The weight of endless explanations. Here is a truth few people want to face. When you over-explain a boundary, you are not actually asking for understanding. You are begging for permission. Think about your own life. Someone asks you for a favor, an invitation, or a piece of your time. You are already overwhelmed. You know you need to step back, but instead of simply declining, your mind immediately goes to work. You craft a long, detailed apology. You invent unnecessary excuses. You offer alternative ways you can help tomorrow or the next day. You twist yourself into knots trying to make sure they do not feel disappointed, rejected, or inconvenienced. You are setting a boundary, yes, but you are exhausting yourself by trying to cushion the blow for everyone else. In Buddhist thought, much of our suffering stems from attachment. But this is not just about attachment to material things. It is about our deep, painful attachment to the image of who we believe we must be in the minds of others. We cling to the identity of the good friend, the reliable worker, the selfless family member. We are terrified that if we simply state our needs without a grand defense, that identity will shatter. Buddhism reminds us that we cannot control the internal weather of another human being. When we over-explain, we are secretly trying to control their reaction. We are trying to force an outcome that keeps us safe. Imagine closing the heavy wooden door of your house to protect yourself from a fierce, howling storm. You have every right to seek shelter. But instead of resting by the warmth of your own quiet fire, you stand outside in the freezing rain, shouting into the wind, trying to explain to the storm why you had to close the door. You are getting soaked, you are shivering, and the storm does not care about your reasons. We do this constantly in our relationships. We lock the door for our own mental survival, but we leave our peace outside in the rain, agonizing over whether the other person is angry with us. We replay the conversation. We worry we sounded too harsh. We carefully monitor their text responses to measure their mood. Ask yourself, what are you afraid will happen if you just let a boundary stand on its own? Are you afraid of their anger, or are you afraid that without your endless accommodations, you will lose your value in their eyes? Pause. Breathe. Observe this fear without letting it dictate your actions. The next time you must draw a line, do your part, then release the outcome. You do not need to present a courtroom defense for your own exhaustion. Your limits do not require a jury's approval to be valid. Let the feeling of guilt rise, but do not make it your identity. Let it pass like a dark cloud drifting across an open sky, because peace is not something you chase by making everyone around you perfectly comfortable. It is something you make space for by finally standing in your own truth. But giving up the habit of over-explaining is only the first step. To truly let go, we must look deeper at why we work so hard to be needed in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The difference between being useful and being loved. Here is a quiet, painful truth that we often hide from ourselves. We frequently confuse being needed with being valued. When you spend your life rushing to soften the blow for others, jumping to solve their problems, and shrinking your own boundaries to make room for theirs, you create a dangerous dynamic. People begin to expect your endless sacrifice. You become the reliable one, the strong one, the fixer, the one who never complains. But beneath that exhausting, constant effort is a silent, terrifying question. If I stop being useful, will they still want me around? When you catch yourself over-explaining a simple no, it is often because you are secretly terrified that your only worth to this person is your utility. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to look deeply at the nature of our relationships, distinguishing between pure compassion and transactional attachment. True connection is rooted in observing and honoring another being without conditions. But attachment creates an emotional marketplace. It says, "I will surrender my peace, and in return, you will give me your approval." When we scramble to justify our boundaries, we are operating in this marketplace. We are terrified that our currency has run out. Buddhism reminds us that a relationship built entirely on what you can produce, provide, or endure is not a spiritual connection. It is merely a contract. Imagine a strong wooden boat moving through rough water. Its entire existence is dedicated to carrying people safely across a cold, turbulent river. The passengers praise the boat. They rely on it. They speak highly of how strong and dependable it is in the face of the storm. But the moment the boat begins to splinter and must pull ashore to rest and be repaired, the passengers do not sit with it in the sand. They do not care for its cracks. They simply walk away and look for another boat. They did not love the boat. They only loved the crossing. Think about your own life, especially the relationships where you feel the most intense pressure to explain your exhaustion. The demanding workplace, the chaotic friend who always needs rescuing, the family member who only reaches out when they need something from you. When you finally say you are too tired to carry them across the river, do they offer to sit with you on the quiet shore? Or do they become offended that their free transportation has stopped? When people react with immediate frustration to your gentle boundary, they are quietly revealing that their affection was tied strictly to your utility. Ask yourself, are the people you are so terrified of disappointing actually nurturing your soul? Or are they just comfortably resting on your exhaustion? What are you afraid will happen if you let go of being their savior? Pause. Breathe. Observe the thought without following it. Let the fear of being unhelpful rise, but do not act on it. You do not have to be an engine of constant giving to deserve love. Stop trying to earn your place in the lives of others by carrying weight that does not belong to you. Because stepping away from the exhausting role of the endless provider is the only way to see who is truly meant to stand beside you. But recognizing this harsh reality brings up a new, unsettling challenge. We suddenly realize how much precious energy we have wasted trying to manage the unmanageable. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The illusion of controlling how others see you. What if the hardest part of setting a boundary is not the boundary itself, but the painful realization that you cannot control the story someone else tells about you? Here is the truth few people want to face. When we over-explain our need for space, we are not simply sharing information. We are desperately trying to curate the thoughts of another person. We want to ensure they see us as kind. We want them to know we are not being selfish, lazy, or cold. We believe that if we just give them enough context, if we just find the perfect words, they will smile, understand, and agree with our decision. We exhaust ourselves fighting to protect our reputation in their mind. In Buddhist thought, one of the deepest sources of human suffering is clinging to an illusion. And one of the greatest illusions we cling to is the idea that we can control our image in the minds of others. Buddhism reminds us that the version of you that exists in someone else's head is not actually you. It is a fragile projection, built entirely from their own expectations, their own fears, and their own attachments. When we over-explain, we are trying to control an illusion. We are fighting a desperate battle on territory we do not even own. Imagine a vast, dark lake at night, reflecting a bright, full moon. You are standing on the shore, trying to make the water hold, a perfect, unbroken image of that light. But the wind blows, the water ripples, the reflection distorts and fractures into 1,000 broken pieces. Frantic, you wade into the cold water, splashing and waving your hands, trying to physically smooth out the surface so the reflection will be perfect again. But your very effort only creates more chaos. The more you fight the water, the more distorted the image becomes. Meanwhile, high above, the actual moon remains whole, silent, and entirely untouched by the wind. Connect this to your own life. Think about the times you have faced family conflict, or when a friend completely misunderstood your need for distance. Think about the long, anxious text messages you have sent, trying to smooth out the water. You stay awake, replaying the argument, thinking of the perfect thing to say, to make them see your good intentions. You are wading into the freezing lake, fighting the ripples, trying to force them to see you clearly. Ask yourself, are you actually trying to communicate, or are you trying to control? Is this endless explaining bringing you peace, or is it only feeding your anxiety? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let them misunderstand you? Pause, breathe, stop trying to smooth the water. Observe the urge to defend yourself and gently let it go. You do not have to explain the sky to the lake. Let the feeling of being misunderstood rise without making it your identity. Let their disappointment belong to them. Do your part. Speak your truth quietly, then release the outcome. You are the moon, not the reflection, because true peace is not found in convincing the world of your goodness. It is found in resting quietly within it, regardless of the turbulent water below. But simply stopping the explanations can leave us feeling deeply guilty, because we have been taught that giving everything is the only way to be good. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. True compassion requires honesty, not sacrifice. What if the kindness you are showing others is actually a subtle form of dishonesty? Here is the truth few people want to face. We often use the word sacrifice to mask our fear of speaking our true limits. Think about the times you have smiled and agreed to take on an extra burden when you were already utterly exhausted. You say yes to a social obligation because you want to be supportive. You take on extra work because you want to be seen as reliable. You listen to hours of a friend's complaining because you do not want to seem cold. You tell yourself that this is what good people do. But beneath that gentle smile, a quiet, heavy resentment is building. You are hiding your actual capacity. You are giving away pieces of yourself you cannot afford to lose, believing that destroying your own peace is the price of being a good person. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true compassion cannot exist without honesty. In Buddhist thought, compassion is not about setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. If your kindness requires you to destroy your own inner peace, it is not compassion, it is martyrdom. Buddhism reminds us that you cannot offer clear, life-giving water from a well that has run dry. When we give out of fear, obligation, or the desperate need to please, that secret bitterness poisons the gift. We are no longer giving freely. We are simply buying approval at the cost of our own spirit. Imagine a strong, ancient tree standing in a quiet forest. When a fierce storm arrives, small birds and animals seek shelter beneath its wide canopy. The tree naturally provides shade, safety, and a place to rest. But what if the tree, wanting to be endlessly compassionate, decided to tear up its own deep roots to wrap around the animals? What if it forcefully snapped its own strong branches to build them a fire? The tree would destroy itself. And when the very next storm arrived, there would be no tree left to offer shelter to anyone at all. We do this constantly in modern life. We snap our own branches to keep others comfortable. We uproot our own routines, our sleep, and our quiet weekends to manage the emotional chaos of a family member or a demanding partner. We drain ourselves trying to fix people who are not asking to be fixed, only to be shielded from the consequences of their own actions. We think we are being profoundly loving, but we are slowly dismantling our own strength. Ask yourself, when you agree to do something that exhausts you, is it coming from a place of genuine love or a place of fear? Are you offering shelter or are you breaking your own branches? What are you still holding on to that is forcing you to choose between someone else's comfort and your own survival? Pause, breathe. Observe the heavy feeling of obligation in your chest without immediately acting on it. Stop trying to carry the weight of the entire forest. Do your part. Offer what you can freely give. Then release the outcome. Let the feeling of guilt pass without making it your master. You are not powerless, and you do not have to abandon yourself to be worthy of standing among others. Because true peace is not built on a foundation of hidden resentment and constant surrender. It is built on the quiet courage to be honest about what you can give. But when we finally stop turning ourselves into instruments for others to use, we are suddenly faced with an uncomfortable emptiness. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The danger of treating yourself as an instrument. What if the deepest betrayal in your life is not how others treat you, but how you have quietly learned to treat yourself? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you constantly apologize for needing rest, you are acting like a broken tool apologizing to its owner. Think about how you measure your own value on a daily basis. If you are highly productive, if you solve a major problem at work, if you successfully manage the emotions of your friends and family, you feel a fleeting sense of worth. But the moment you are tired, the moment you need space, or the moment you simply cannot be useful to anyone, a crushing guilt takes over. You rush to over-explain your boundaries because you feel you are failing at your primary job. You have subconsciously agreed to treat yourself not as a human being, but as an instrument. Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the inherent dignity of all living beings, a worth that is completely separate from function. In Buddhist thought, profound suffering arises when we mistake our temporary actions, our doing, for our actual being. When we evaluate ourselves based strictly on what we can produce, provide, or fix, we lose touch with our true nature. Buddhism reminds us that you are a living, breathing consciousness. You were not born merely to act as a shock absorber for the world's heavy demands. Imagine a beautifully crafted, ancient bronze bell, hanging in the center of a quiet courtyard. Its resonance is deep and moving. But suppose the village decides the bell must be rung constantly, every single minute of the day, to announce the passing time and keep everyone on schedule. The heavy wooden hammer strikes the metal endlessly. If the bell believes its only purpose is to make noise for others, it will welcome the relentless beating. But eventually, under the constant violent impact, the bronze will fracture, the bell will crack, and its beautiful voice will be ruined forever. The true power of the bell is not just in the sound it makes, but in the profound, untouched silence it holds inside. Connect this to your own relentless schedule. You treat your mind and body like a machine that owes the world constant output. You apologize for taking a quiet weekend, as if a machine is apologizing for needing to be unplugged. You over-explain your desire to stay home, secretly feeling like you are failing your social obligations. You welcome the heavy wooden hammer of work stress, relationship demands, and the pressure to succeed, believing that enduring the strikes makes you noble. Ask yourself, are you allowing yourself to just exist, or are you only allowing yourself to perform? Is this constant need to be useful bringing you peace, or is it slowly cracking your spirit? What are you afraid will happen if you put down the hammer and simply rest in the silence? Pause. Breathe. Let the heavy expectation drop from your shoulders. Observe the guilt without letting it force you back into motion. You do not have to earn your right to exist. Stop trying to prove your worth through your own exhaustion. Let life meet you where you are, without offering an apology for your presence. Because peace is not the reward you get for finally finishing all your tasks and making everyone around you happy. Peace is what happens when you realize you were never an instrument to begin with. But stepping out of this mechanical role and standing in your own silence requires us to learn a completely new way of communicating. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The art of the quiet boundary. What if the most powerful boundary you will ever set is the one that requires no defense at all? Here is the truth few people want to face. The more words you use to protect your peace, the weaker your protection becomes. Think about the last time you had to say no to someone. You likely felt a sudden surge of panic. You drafted a long message, deleting and rewriting, trying to strike the perfect balance between firm and friendly. When they pushed back or asked why, you began to negotiate. You offered a compromise. You felt you had to win an argument or prove your exhaustion before you were officially allowed to rest. You treat your boundaries like a negotiation, believing that if you just explain yourself clearly enough, the other person will finally grant you permission to stop. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound power of stillness. In Buddhist thought, a truth does not require a frantic defense. It simply is. When you endlessly explain your limits, you are bringing anxious, clinging energy into a space that actually requires calm detachment. Buddhism reminds us that observing an emotion or a conflict without reacting to it is the ultimate form of strength. You do not need to fight the chaos of another person's demands. You only need to stop participating in it. Imagine a heavy, ancient stone resting in the middle of a fast-moving river. The water rushes against it, swirling in complex, chaotic patterns, crashing into the rock with great force. If the stone had a mind, it would not try to negotiate with the river. It would not explain why it needs to stay where it is, or apologize for blocking the current. The stone simply rests in its own weight. It remains still. And because it does not move, the chaotic water has no choice but to naturally part and flow around it. Connect this to the moments when someone tries to cross a line you have drawn. It happens in demanding workplaces, with friends who refuse to respect your time, or when a family member asks for your weekend. They bring the rushing water. They bring the urgent texts, the passive-aggressive sighs, the sudden crises, and the demands for an immediate response. When you reply with a long defensive explanation, you lose your footing and get swept away in their current. When you simply state your truth and fall silent, you become the stone. A quiet, gentle, "I am unable to do this right now," is a complete sentence. Ask yourself, why do you feel that your silence is cruel? Are you truly trying to protect their feelings? Or are you just terrified of the awkwardness of a quiet room? What are you afraid will happen if you simply state your truth and let the silence hang in the air? Pause. Breathe. Do not rush to fill the quiet. Let the discomfort of their silence rise without making it your identity. Stop trying to soften reality to make others comfortable. Speak your limit clearly, then completely release the need to manage their reaction. Let the river flow around you without letting it move you. Because peace is not a debate you finally win. It is a quiet truth you finally decide to inhabit. But holding that deep silence means you will inevitably have to watch someone else be upset with you. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Sitting with the disappointment of others. What if the most difficult spiritual practice is not learning to meditate, but learning to simply let someone else be upset with you? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you finally stop over-explaining and hold a quiet boundary, someone is going to be disappointed. And if you have spent your life trying to be endlessly useful, this disappointment will feel like a terrible emergency. Think about the moments right after you say no. You sense their sudden withdrawal. You notice their shortened text messages, their heavy sighs, or their cold silence. Your immediate, painful instinct is to rush back in, to fix it, to apologize, and to abandon the very boundary you just fought so hard to build. You believe that their disappointment means you have done something profoundly wrong. You treat their frustration as undeniable proof that you are a bad friend, a selfish partner, or an unreliable worker. You forget that disappointment is simply the gap between their expectation and reality, and you are not obligated to fill that gap by sacrificing yourself. Buddhist wisdom teaches that all emotions are transient, both our own and those of others. In Buddhist thought, suffering arises when we try to forcefully stop the natural flow of reality. Disappointment is a natural, unavoidable human experience. It is not inherently dangerous. Buddhism reminds us that we are not responsible for carrying the emotional weather of another person. When we frantically rush to fix their disappointment, we are actually robbing them of their own opportunity to process reality. We are interfering with their journey. Imagine a heavy, dark storm cloud moving across a vast, open valley. It begins to rain heavily on a distant patch of forest. If you are standing on the opposite ridge, you might feel a deep, panicked urge to run all the way across the valley with a massive canvas, trying to shield those trees from the rain. But the rain is natural. The cloud must empty itself. The earth must absorb the water to grow. Your frantic running does not stop the storm from existing. It only exhausts you, leaving you stranded and shivering in the mud. Connect this to your own life. When a co-worker is frustrated that you cannot take on their emergency, or a family member gives you the silent treatment because you declined an invitation, you feel the rain starting. You immediately run across the valley to cover them. You send the anxious follow-up text. You offer to help just a little bit. You absorb their frustration into your own body. You forget that they are a fully capable human being, perfectly able to experience a minor letdown without shattering into pieces. Ask yourself, why does their temporary disappointment feel like a permanent threat to your safety? What are you afraid will happen if you just let them be annoyed for a little while? Is their reaction actually dangerous, or is it just deeply uncomfortable? Pause, breathe, let the storm pass without becoming the storm. Observe their disappointment without rushing to fix it. Do your part, state your boundary, and then step back. Allow them to feel whatever they need to feel without making it your responsibility to cure it. Because peace is not found in a world where no one is ever upset with you. It is found in your quiet ability to remain whole, even when they are. But enduring this deep discomfort requires us to unlearn the heaviest lie we have ever been taught about our own value, and this is where the next truth begins. 8. Recognizing your unconditional worth. What if you stopped trying to earn the space you take up in the world? Here is the truth few people want to face. You have spent your entire life believing that love is a wage you must work for. Think about how you measure a good day. You likely measure it by how much you accomplished, how many crises you averted, or how many people you kept happy. You carry a quiet, heavy belief that if you are not actively fixing, producing, or accommodating, you are simply taking up space. You treat your existence as a debt that must be constantly paid off through your usefulness. When you feel lonely, or when you fear you are falling behind in life, your immediate instinct is to work harder. You try to be more accommodating, to shrink your boundaries even further, secretly hoping that someone, anyone, will finally validate your worth. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this endless striving is the root of profound spiritual exhaustion. In Buddhist thought, Every being possesses an inherent, unchanging wholeness. You do not acquire your worth by gathering approval from the outside world, and you do not lose it when someone misunderstands your boundaries. Buddhism reminds us that your true nature is already complete. The suffering begins when you forget this deep stillness and start believing that you are only as valuable as the last person you helped. Imagine a bright, steady candle burning in a very quiet room. When someone walks into the room, the light helps them find their way. They use the light to read, to work, to feel safe in the dark. The candle is incredibly useful to them. But if that person leaves the room and closes the door, the candle does not suddenly lose its nature. It does not extinguish itself just because no one is there to benefit from its warmth. It continues to burn, silent, bright, and entirely complete within itself. The flame does not exist merely to serve the eyes of the person passing through. It exists because it is fire. Connect this to the moments when you are completely alone, or when you feel invisible to the people you have tried so hard to support. You feel a deep, agonizing emptiness because you have tied your entire identity to being the light for someone else's darkness. You panic when you are not needed. You worry you are failing at life if you are not overwhelmed with social or family responsibilities. You have forgotten how to simply burn in the quiet room of your own life, entirely for yourself. Ask yourself, if you stripped away your title, your role in your family, and all the constant favors you do for your friends, what is left? What are you afraid you will find if you simply sit in the quiet room with yourself? Are you terrified that without your usefulness, there is nothing left to love? Pause. Breathe. Observe this terrifying thought without believing it. You do not have to perform to deserve your own presence. Stop trying to prove your worth to a world that is too distracted to see it. Let the desperate need for validation rise, and gently watch it dissolve into the quiet air, because peace is not a certificate you receive for being perfectly accommodating. It is the quiet realization that you were already whole before you ever lifted a finger to help. But stepping fully into this realization means dropping the heaviest performance of all. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. The freedom of letting go of performance. What if the exhaustion you feel is finally ready to leave you? Think back to the heavy weight we spoke of at the beginning, the endless paragraphs of excuses, the frantic need to soften every boundary, the quiet, desperate performance of managing how everyone else feels about your choices. For so long, you have carried this weight, believing it was the undeniable price of admission to be loved, to be valued, to be kept around. You confused being a safe harbor with being a sinking ship, taking on everyone else's water until you had no air left for yourself. But here is the truth. You are allowed to put the weight down. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that true liberation does not come from forcefully changing the world around us. It comes from changing how tightly we hold it. In Buddhist thought, the ultimate freedom is non-attachment. This is not a cold indifference, but a deep, loving trust in the natural flow of reality. It is the realization that you cannot control the internal weather of others, and more importantly, you were never meant to. When you let go of the need to endlessly perform your worth, you make space for true presence. You stop acting as a human shield for other people's disappointment, and you finally allow yourself to just be. Imagine waking up tomorrow and choosing not to write the long, apologetic text. Imagine simply saying, "I am unable to do this," and then closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and letting the quiet settle in the room. Imagine letting the other person be briefly disappointed, knowing that their disappointment is not a permanent verdict on your soul. The river will still flow around the stone. The storm will still pass over the open valley. The sky will not fall just because you finally decided to seek shelter in your own quiet truth. Think about your own life. You have spent years proving how incredibly useful you can be. You have mastered the art of the perfect, a gentle explanation to avoid hurting anyone's feelings. But the time for performing is over. You do not have to be a broken boat carrying everyone across the rough water. You do not have to violently snap your own branches to keep others warm. You are allowed to stand firmly in your own space, without offering a courtroom defense for your survival. Self-respect is the quiet refusal to betray yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. Inner peace is the realization that you do not need everyone to understand your boundaries in order for them to be undeniably valid. Ask yourself, what would happen if you simply trusted your own limits? What would happen if you believed, right now, in this very moment, that you are entirely worthy of love, even when you are doing absolutely nothing for anyone else? Pause. Breathe. Feel the deep, still silence within you. Let the desperate need to explain yourself rise, and watch it gently drift away like a small cloud across an endless sky. You have done your part. You have carried enough. You no longer have to chase the approval of a world that expects you to run on empty. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.